Okay, just as promised, we're going to show you up close how to attach the bearing puller to the shaft and how to remove the bearing. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to use my 3-draw bearing puller, as I showed you just a minute ago. Now, up close, here's the shaft. I'm going to take my 10mm socket. I'm using a 1/4 inch 10mm socket, 1/4 inch drive. So I put that, see how that slips over nicely? It's not too loose, it's not too tight. A 10mm works nicely, and then the 1/4 inch drive, that's nice for the tip of the bearing puller. You got that big tip of that bearing puller there. And what normally happens if you just use it like this, it would wind up putting like a center mark or a tip, and then sometimes it mushrooms out the shaft. So instead of mushrooming out the shaft on yourself and going through a hassle of having to clean it up, you just take the socket, slip it over like that, and voila, as they say. Alright, so what we're going to do now is going to take my bearing puller. I'm going to put this over there like that. You want to catch behind the bearing. Now at the same time, I'm going to put my shaft, as I told you, I'm going to start screwing in my shaft so it hits that socket. Now once I hit the shaft on the socket there, I'm going to start tightening the other part of my bearing puller. Now, some bearing pullers don't have this outside locking mechanism, and that's okay. A standard bearing puller from wherever is cool, wherever you decide to buy it. You don't actually have to have this locking mechanism. I do a lot of bearings, and we do a lot of big bearings too in multiple use. So we're more of a commercial application here, and it's more than a one-time use. So that's why we try to get, huge tools, and these are more expensive. But at the same time, a regular bearing puller will work. Okay, so there you go. Now there you go. The bearing is now attached. You can see my puller. If I move on it, it's solid. My shaft is tightened up good, and I got all 3 jaws behind that bearing just like that. Okay. So now if I start spinning it just like this, see, it will start pulling my bearing off. Now, a lot of guys, you could take it traditionally. You could take a open end wrench here, and you could turn the shaft on the bearing puller. But that that will work too, and that will pull the bearing towards you. But we like to just turn this like this. See what that does? It just loosens the bearing up. Now you won't be able to do this unless you have a posi lock, but you'll want to do it with a regular open end wrench. And I'm going to show you that for the rest of the way. Okay, so if you have a posi lock or a 3-jaw and you want to spin it, you can see how my bearings come off. You want to do it that way. But if you want to do it the traditional way, I'll show you that in 1 second.